It is both a science and art. Progress has been made inch by mankind in the business of developing proper eating and living habits. Yet, we have miles to go to unravel the mysteries of healing. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are here present on this platform today to explore one such tool, fasting, the forgotten medicine. To attend the first of its kind, the first ever international online conference on fasting and its molecular mechanisms and clinical applications. We are fortunate to be a part of a conference that has witnessed a remarkable response of over 4,000 registrations, including the researchers, health professionals, physicians, BNY students, and health enthusiasts from over 40 countries across the globe. With the sole objective of sharing in-depth knowledge of molecular mechanisms in various conditions and recent developments in the field of fasting therapy for its best suited applications in clinical practice, Dr. Praveen Jacob and his associates have taken up this initiative to create this one-of-its-kind platform for knowledge sharing. On behalf of organizing chairperson Dr. Praveen Jacob and the organizing committee, I, Dr. Rita Vaz, take this honor to welcome the distinguished researchers, the presenters on the panel today, and I also extend a warm welcome to all the participants across the world. May I now request our special guest, Dr. Raghvendra Rao, Director of Central Council of Research in Yoga and Naturopathy, to inaugurate the conference.
Good morning, everybody. It's very heartening to see all of you today here. And about 436, the number of participants I see logging on, and the numbers are just increasing. And I'm very happy to see Dr. Praveen Jacob, Dr. Rita, and others in the organizing team who have painstakingly tried to organize this conference since the last 3 months. They have put an impressive panel of speakers from different disciplines, and that is very, very heartening to see that. We have scientists, we have doctors, we have naturopath physicians, we have researchers, and we have everybody, and also the students, so that they can have a better understanding about what fasting is all about. So I take this opportunity to welcome all of you once again, and providing this platform for all of us to learn. And I hope you will have a very good intellectual feast today from all these speakers here. I thank you all, thank the organizers here, Dr. Praveen Jacob especially, who has been working on this idea from last 3 months and has been talking to us to see how this can come about. Thank you, Dr. Praveen, and thank you all the organizers here and all my co-panelists, speakers, as well as all my dear students, as well as my dear colleagues for being here for this intellectual treat. I hope you will take good amount of knowledge from this particular meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Raghvendra Rao, for inaugurating with those words of appreciation and motivation. In the next 7 hours of learning, powered by our IT support and Pixel Bucket and the technical team, leading researchers and clinicians with over 15 to 20 years experience in clinical practice will be presenting a series of lectures on molecular pathways, immunology and fasting, calorie restriction, cellular mechanism of fasting and its clinical applications with interesting case presentations. We request all the participants to kindly mute their mics during the session and post the questions, if any, in the chat box, which shall be answered by the presenters at the end of each session. We now move on to our presentations. To begin with, we have our first presenter, the guest of the day, Dr. Raghvendra Rao. He holds a PhD in Yoga and Life Sciences from S. Vyasa University, Bangalore, has completed several research projects on rheumatoid arthritis, pre-diabetes, diabetes, cardiovascular disease risk prevention, and the use of both yoga and naturopathy interventions. He has several international research publications and book chapters on yoga and its application. He has won numerous accolades in the field of yoga and Ayurveda and yoga research. Recently, he's been appointed as a director of Central Council for Research in Yoga and Naturopathy under Ministry of AYUSH, Government of India. Sir, may I now request you to present on fasting and immunity, basis and evidence. Dr. Raghvendra Rao, kindly unmute your mic.
So can you, okay, are you getting this right screen or what?
No, sir, we can just see your Zoom screen. You will have to open your presentation.
Now can you see this?
Yes. Can you please put it on slide? Yes. Okay.
Can you see me that? Yeah.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to give my insights about fasting and immunity. What I would like to tell all of you is that fasting was dismissed as something which is very crap, was dismissed as something which is very unscientific. And whenever we had some discourses and discussions with diabetologists and several other physicians where I happened to work with, I saw a lot of disdain, a lot of negativity about fasting. And they said that fasting cannot do anything with diabetes, fasting cannot do anything with obesity as well. So their idea of thinking was entirely different. They always talked about using a bariatric surgery for managing obesity or taking medications to manage diabetes. This said and done, we need to understand that we had a feather in our cap in 2016 because the Nobel Prize was awarded to one scientist from Japan, Yoshinori Okura, who was Yoshinori Otsumi, who was from the Tokyo University, for his phenomenal work on learning about cell recycling and rejuvenation. Okay. He talked about the concept of autophagy in yeast cells. So his lab worked upon the yeast cells and looked at when they were growing these yeast cells in the petri dishes in nutrient media. He found out that when the nutrient media was completely devoid of any proper nutrients, then the yeast cells started producing more of autophagic vacuoles inside the cellular membrane. And this is started bringing about a lot of inquisitiveness to look at what these vacuoles were doing. And he found out that they were doing nothing but removing all the cell debris, recycling the cell components, and helping the cell to rejuvenate itself. Okay, this is a phenomenal work called on concept of autophagy in yeast cells, which was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2016. So what is this autophagy all about and why this is very, very important? So if you look at, he made one very important statement when he's doing his lecture in the Karolinska Institute. And I would like to just bring a point to this. We produce 10 to 10 to 6 million RBC cells per second. We produce 1 into 10 to 15 molecules of hemoglobin per second. Now, where are these cells going? If you're producing so much of RBCs, if you're producing so much amount of hemoglobin, why is there anemia? Okay, why is there anemia? So this is a very, very important question for us to ask. Why is this anemia? Is because more the number of cells are produced, equal number of cells are also dying. They're also being degenerated. So there is a process of regeneration and degeneration happening up in our body, in our physiological system, and that needs to be balanced or be homeostatic. I'll bring you another analogy which he talked about. We take 70 grams of proteins per day. This gets converted into our amino acid pools. We synthesize about 240 grams of amino acids from all the cells per day, and about 9 kgs of proteins per day is synthesized. Now, our body weight is 60 kgs, and if you're going to be synthesizing 9 kg of proteins, and if this is accumulated in your day, every day, imagine how big, how much weight would have acquired over time. Okay, so there is synthesis about 240 grams, but there's also degradation of about 240 grams. And there's reutilization of the proteins from amino acid pool for 170 grams per day. This is what they arrived out of a lot of experiments done on mammals as well as animal species. So whatever we are learning about biology today, what we are learning about the human body today is because of the studies being done in the lab, especially on cell lines, on yeast, on protozoa, and bacteriophages, on mammalian cells. Okay, it can be even on mammals as well, guinea pigs, chimpanzees, monkeys, okay, and even nematodes like C. elegans, etc., and Drosophila fly as well. So a lot of studies being done on these species has helped us to understand the cellular mechanisms and biology even better. Okay, so this tells us very clearly that there is a regeneration, there is degeneration, okay, and there needs to be maintained a balance. Okay, in this process, the cell is also trying to, because of the metabolic process is so strong, you have anabolism, you have catabolism, there needs to also be what is called repair. Okay, so there also needs to be what is called in the middle called repair process, and that repair process only occurs when the anabolic processes are slowed down, the catabolic processes are also slowed down. When these two processes are slowed down, that is when the cell starts repairing, and that's called autophagy. So we'll go more about what this autophagy is all about. Okay, I just want to play a video. Just let me know if you are able to hear this voice of the video. Can you hear this?
No, so we cannot hear any.
You can't hear the voice.
No.
Okay, so I will not play this video because you're not able to hear it. So instead of showing you the analogy, let me tell you what this video is all about. So as you keep on buying newspapers every day, the newspapers become a very big pile. It's stacked up inside in your house, and you need to really clear these newspapers and give it to your garbage man or somebody who recycles that particular newspaper, isn't it? And these guys, this newspaper goes back to the so go downs, and they go to the newspaper industries again, where they're made into pulp and recycled into different items. Same thing happens even with your cell. Okay, when you do fasting, there is autophagy. All the protein adducts which are there, okay, all the bacteria and viruses products which are there, which are degraded inside the cell, are broken down, reshaped again to form different amino acids, different amount of structures inside the body. They used to rebuild or repair the tissues which are damaged inside the body, and that's what happens with the waste, which is there in every cell of the body. And this waste, which is there in every cell of the body, is completely completely reused in a proper and efficient way by a process called autophagy. So in this autophagy, you have the lysosomes, you have the endosomes inside the cell, which play a very important role in digesting all these cell debris and throwing it out of the body so that it can be completely recycled. Just a second, please. Sorry for this interruption. Okay. So very importantly, how does this autophagy work? There are two very important pathways in the cell which are important for growth and differentiation, as well as important for cellular repair and catabolic processes. So there is what is called mTOR pathway, which is called the target of rapamycin pathway. This is a protein kinase which was found in 1991 in a Streptomyces cerevisiae. It's a bacteria basically. And you have the AMPK pathway, which is again a protein kinase pathway. And both these pathways are antagonistic to each other inside the cell. Okay, let us look at what they do. So if you see here, whenever there is when you take a very high calorie diet, when you take a high protein diet, the amino acids from the proteins trigger the mTOR pathway, the target of rapamycin pathway. So what they do, they inhibit autophagy, and this can cause increase in oxidative stress inside the cells, increase in anabolic and catabolic process inside the cells. This leads to oxidative stress inside the cells in the mitochondria, can lead to production of more misfolded proteins, and can lead to production of more amyloid deposits inside the brain, lead to Alzheimer's, can lead to Parkinson's, can lead to diabetic angiopathy, can lead to cataract. So all these things are nothing but accumulation of end products of cell metabolism, which can cause more oxidative stress damage to the cells and tissues, and lead to formation of protein adducts, which can get deposited inside the cells and cause complete damage to the cells. So this can lead to Alzheimer's disease, all the neurodegenerative diseases which you see today, the Parkinson's, the Alzheimer's, So all these are caused due to this. And senile cataract, dementia, all these are because of the increased oxidative stress in the mitochondria. This is because you don't give rest to your body, you keep on eating too high caloric diet, high protein diet, and this over a period of time can cause these neurodegenerative disorders. This is by activation of the mTOR pathway, down regulation of AMPK pathway. Now the opposite happens when you do fasting. When you do fasting or low calorie diet or do intermittent fasting, then there is activation of the AMPK pathway, which stimulates the autophagy process, the lysosomes inside the cells. These are neuroprotective. They help in enhancing the immune response. They have anti-aging process. They produce more free fatty acids and amino acids, which play a very, very important role in cell remodeling and fuel. Okay, so this is a very, very important aspect. This is a very basic mechanism of autophagy. The two pathways, the mTOR pathway has to be inhibited by fasting. The AMP pathway has to be activated by fasting. And this is done by this is completely done by your free fatty acids, amino acids play a very, very important role in cellular repair. Now look at all these things. What are the practical interventions to promote autophagy? So these are all the ways you can promote autophagy inside your body. Sunlight plays a very, very important role. Vitamin D plays a very, very important role. Rapamycin, the drug which I told you, it is an anti-cancer drug. Everolimus, temorimus, all these things are called as, these are some of the important chemotherapy drugs used in most of the cancers, solid tumors especially. Caffeine activates autophagy. Green tea, metformin activates autophagy. It plays the same role just like fasting. Lithium activates autophagy. Resveratrol from the grapes, okay, the red grapes also activates autophagy. Spermidine, okay, is also activates hypoxia activates autophagy, and all the most of the phyto substances which are NF-kappa B inhibitors activate autophagy. Okay, just a second, please. So what happens when you do the fasting? So very, very important here is there are a lot of misconceptions about fasting. We believe fasting is just a low calorie diet. We believe fasting is just a low carbohydrate diet. We believe fasting is just a low protein, low sugar diet and a low fat diet. Okay, we have a lot of anathema to fat. The moment you're obese, we feel that we take more intake of fat and that's why we are obese. Okay, and that is the biggest lie, which that's the biggest unscientific claim. This is the biggest myth which was there prevalent until today. And even the scientists, the physicians, the doctors believed in the same theory that if you are fat or if you are obese, cut down on fatty foods. Okay, so this is a very, very important thing. Is important, but I'll show you as we go ahead how fat is very, very important in fasting. So what they did was, if you take a high fat, adequate protein, and low carbohydrate diet, okay, 70% of the diet should be fat. Okay, these are known to. This is also called as a ketogenic diet or a high fat diet regimen. Okay, and this is known to help in reshaping the mitochondria. Okay, they help in the mitochondria to recover from the stress, because the only way the amino acids come and affect the mitochondria is by causing oxidative stress. It causes oxidative stress. So basically, by using this high fat diet, you can try to reduce this oxidative stress. Okay, and this is a low calorie intake as well as high fat diet can help in stimulating autophagy in the cells. So here, whenever you have a fasting, you need to avoid stress, you need to avoid sugar. Okay, and this is a very, very important aspect. You need to have proper exercise and physical activity. So exercise and physical activity has the same effect as fasting, stimulating autophagy. It reduces your mTOR protein activation. And what is important here is you need to reduce the feeding on your you need to feed your mitochondria with fatty acids, okay, and not with amino acids. This is a very, very important aspect because you want to prevent oxidative stress here. Okay, and you also have to avoid environmental toxins. So these are very, very important aspects of fasting. So we'll go into different aspects of diseases which have relevance to this fasting here. So you know very well about insulin resistance syndrome. It is also called as a syndrome X or Reaven syndrome, named after Michael J. Reaven. Okay, there's several known factors are coexisting here. You have abdominal obesity or central obesity. You have a dyslipidemia. You have hypertension. You have an inflammatory state. you have elevated blood glucose, elevated blood pressure, etc. So all these things, a combination of any three of them forms what is called syndrome X or Reaven syndrome, or it's also called insulin resistance syndrome. And this can cause what? Hyperinsulinemia. Increased amount of insulin inside your body is there. This is because the insulin is secreted in large amounts, glucose is there in large amounts, okay, and insulin like growth factor, which is there, IGF-1, which is there, it prevents the binding of the insulin to the glucose and effective utilization of the glucose by the muscles, as a result of which you have hyperinsulinemia, you have hyperglycemia as well. Both of these things are there in individuals, and this can cause insulin resistance syndrome. This is very important. So this can cause obesity, this can affect the insulin leptin ghrelin axis. It can cause certain types of cancer like colon, breast, and prostate cancer. It can cause osteoporosis, PCOS, increase the risk for Alzheimer's and nephropathy, can cause chronic inflammation, can cause heart disease, can cause type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, can cause coagulation disorders, and can directly damage the blood vessels as well. So this is a very important aspect, and this is caused mainly because of sedentary lifestyle, where there is caloric overload, high carbohydrate, sugars, physical inactivity, increased amount of stress, decreased sleep, obesity, and certain other drugs can also do the same problem. So it is not the cholesterol which is a problem here in heart disease, but it is always the insulin which is a problem. So this is a very good important article which was published in Physiological Reviews in 1995, and I hope you all will read this particular article by Reaven GM. Okay.
Dr.
How do you know that?
10
Yes.
minutes more.
Sure. So how do you know that you have high amount of insulin levels? So if you want to really see the chronically symptoms about high insulin levels is to have a fatty liver, unexplained weight gain, abdominal obesity, elevated blood glucose levels, acne and pores on the face, menstrual irregularities, hirsutism, acanthosis nigricans, which is which you can see on your neck, usually on your facial regions and as well as on the neck, and high blood pressure, swollen ankles. So all these are important aspects about hyperinsulinemia because this affects almost all the organ systems inside your body. Okay, so where is the cure for metabolic syndrome? There is no cure for it. Okay, the traditional mainstream thinking is there is no cure for it. Insulin is very high. There's hyperinsulinemia. The only way to take care of this is using drugs like metformin and other things. Okay, and they also was talking about low-fat diet was supposed to be important cure for metabolic syndrome, and this is a big lie which was existing for more than 40 years. Okay, so they say there's no root cause. The only way to cure this is to prevent somebody because you cannot stop somebody from eating more food. You reduce the absorption of food by using bariatric surgery. You use bariatric surgery where you enforce the fasting, okay, rather than bariatric lifestyle where you do intentional fasting. I would use the word bariatric lifestyle here because you want to do intentional fasting. You can also try to have a control of your mind, prevent yourself from eating more food, follow proper fasting regimens, and that's called a bariatric lifestyle for me. Okay, and you also have very low carbohydrate diet. Now, what is important here is to understand the research was published in 2013, where they looked at body weight changes. Okay, so they looked at dietary restriction with low-fat diet and high-fat diet, and looked at different weeks of their prolonged week of study, and they found that high-fat diet lost weight much more faster as compared to the low-fat diet. This is very, very important. So you can see here the lower one, the below one, which is the darker line, is a high-fat diet, and this group lost weight. The body weight is on the y-axis. You can see the weight decreasing rapidly in the high-fat diet group compared to the low-fat diet group. Okay, and if you see the same thing here with insulin dosage, they also saw their patients with insulin dosage and looked at glycosylated hemoglobin concentration in diabetics. Okay, and what they found out was more insulin dosage is related to more lower levels of HbA1c. Okay, if you keep on reducing your insulin dosage, the HbA1c also keeps falling down. So giving insulin to diabetics is an anathema basically. It doesn't really do good. Okay, it may be useful in a short burst to manage the hyperglycemia, elevated hyperglycemia, which is gone to a very high extent, which can cause a lot of side effects and damage to tissues and organ systems. To manage that, you can use it, but you cannot use it in a prolonged manner because HbA1c will not come under control. So this is a very important aspect for you to understand. Okay, so what is fasting? What is intermittent fasting? So basically, when I talk about fasting, I would like to talk about intermittent fasting because this is something which is caught on over the last 10 years or so. A lot of work has been done on intermittent fasting, which they say is just change your eating pattern between cycles of fasting and eating. For example, you have early dinner in the evenings, from 8 o'clock in the night to 12 o'clock in the next afternoon, you fast. 8 o'clock in the night to 12 o'clock in the next afternoon, you fast. So 16 hours of fasting you get, and this is very, very useful, has got a lot of beneficial effects. It helps the cell cycle to rejuvenate, to reinvigorate again, etc. So a lot of studies have been done on these areas. So there are different dietary eating patterns. These are called 16 hours fasting. You have 24 hours fasting twice per week. Okay, and this has been done in various religions as well. You have seen fasting being done in Hinduism, Christianism, Islam, Judaism, Buddhism, and so whatnot, and Jainism, etc. So most of these have been done once in 15 days fasting, once a week fasting, and different eating part. This is nothing but we call them as intermittent fasting, and they found that intermittent fasting has the same effect of doing a 3-day continuous fast. Okay, a 3-day continuous fast and intermittent fast have got almost the same day. The different other varieties and methods are there. You have alternate day fasting. Okay, so in alternate day fasting, you have 75% restriction on day 1, but you eat surplus 25% surplus on day 2. So every alternate days. You have every other day fasting. So you have you do fasting for every 36 hours from dinner on day 1 to breakfast on day 3. So 1 day complete fast is there. This is called 36-hour fasting. And you can do fasting 2 non-consecutive days per week. Skip the breakfast. Okay. So this again is one more thing which can be done. The modified fasting regimens are there, where you allow for water. Okay, you limit the calorie intake. Okay, so many other things can be done. You can only do juice fasting. You can do raw diet fasting. You can do food fasting. Various other types of fastings are there. And there's another concept is called warrior diet. You have one large meal, only one meal per day, but a very large meal per day. That's it, and don't do anything. Okay, you skip breakfast, lunch, and you have something in the night and you sleep. So this is something which is quite different. So because if you have seen what we have studied from our own philosophical understandings in a lot of textbooks, we say have a heavy breakfast, we say have a lighter lunch, and have a very, very lighter and a small meal in the night, right? This is what we have learned over time. But there are a lot of studies being done in the other way around, where they've shown that skipping breakfast in fact is more beneficial. Okay, so it helps the body to get rest and rejuvenate and recover for a longer period of time, because if you skip dinner, then you go to bed, okay, and you are resting in the bed, you're having a very, very good sleep, which helps the body to recuperate and rejuvenate and give it more time for it to recuperate and rejuvenate. And if you do physical activity in the morning like yoga or walking or jogging or exercise, this also has the same effect as fasting, and this helps in reparative process inside the body. Okay, so this is what they say. So this is a very important philosophy which we need to understand, but a lot of studies have already been done on this, and I think if you can go into the Google or PubMed, you can see a lot of studies on this. So if you see what happens in 4 phases of fasting, okay, so if you look at the number of days of fasting on top, and you can see here initially the glucose keeps on coming down from day 1 to day 4 to day 6 to day 7. Glycogen storage, the glucose neogenesis starts increasing, okay, slowly. Okay, then amino acids starts rising up slowly. The fatty acids keeps increasing and stays elevated throughout. The ketone bodies slowly start coming up by around 3rd or 4th day. Okay, these are different aspects of fasting which bring about a different influence on different cellular process as well as autophagy. Okay, the very, very important here is to see the shorter amounts where you want to reduce the glucose, increase the amino acid, increase the fatty acids without increasing the ketones. Okay, if you can do that, that is a very, very important aspect. So 1 to 3 days of fasting plays a very, very important role, because it helps in autophagy, it helps in cell rejuvenation and cell recycle. Whereas if you start doing a ketogenic diet, it can also cause a little bit of harm to the cells because of ketoacidosis as well. Okay. The oxidative rate, if you see the same days of fasting, the carbohydrate keeps coming down very drastically. Oxidation of carbohydrates comes down very drastically, as oxidation of fat and ketones increases over time. So whereas that of protein stays almost stagnant. So very important here you should understand is the fatty acids are oxidized for a longer time, and they stay very high during fasting, and these are the ones which bring about the change in your body, in your physiology during fasting. So very, very important you need to look at is this particular aspect of fat. Okay, so when you do, yeah, I'm just finishing fast. So I won't go into all this, but I've seen all this advertisements on the ads where you can see big people with a large tummy and then reducing the weight after the fasting, etc. Simple thing basically is when you eat food, you increase insulin, you store sugar in the liver, you produce fat in the liver. Or when you don't eat food, you do fasting, you decrease insulin, you burn the stored food sugar, and you burn the fat as well. So this is very, very important. I won't go into more details about how fasting works. I think there are a lot of speakers ahead of me who are going to talk about this today, about immune system. So basically, it stimulates brain function, increases fat metabolism, prevents cancer, promotes weight loss, improves glucose tolerance, etc. So even when they have shown that fasting, periodic cycles of fasting can even restore beta cell function in the insulin in the pancreatic islets, can also stimulate secretion of insulin in IDDM as well. Okay, it may also known to reverse diabetes in mouse or OB mouse, we call them as. Okay, so there are a lot of other mechanisms which I told you how it works. I think we'll go into that briefly in the day over today and over the proceedings today. And what you can see here with respect to immune response is fasting is like a very, very important process which destroys all the old cells and helps in rejuvenation of the new cells. It decreases the T-reg cells which occupy immunological space, decreases autoimmune cells, decreases mast cells, decreases macrophages, increases macrophage activation, increases cell toxicity, reduces inflammatory cytokines, and brings about Th1, Th2 shift. So this has got its effects in aging, autoimmune disease, cancers, infection, and allergies. So if you look at fasting versus bariatric surgery, the very, very important aspect is when you do diet, you have a weight loss. But when you have diet plus surgery, also you have a weight loss. Okay, so what is good? Diet is good or weight loss is good? This is a very, very important question which people are asking today. And people know that very well that diet, bariatric surgery has got so much amount of side effects. So you will see 10% early complications, 15.3% late complications, bleeding, blood clots, dumping syndrome, dehydration, dyspepsia, loss of appetite. You don't feel enjoyment in eating your food and you don't feel like eating your food itself. This can have a lot of psychological impact on your body. Now these are some of the important side effects which is seen with the bariatric surgery. So better to do a bariatric fasting than do a bariatric surgery. Okay, so we are doing a lot of work. We are planning to do with CCRYN. We're planning to start something on fasting and salt-sensitive genes and hypertension. We're planning to do some studies on fasting and gut microbiome. We're looking at molecular mechanisms of different types of fasting. Okay, so we know the life expectancy of the people here. It does not change. It has only improved. It almost doubled in the last 50 years or 100 years, you can say. In the 1900s, the average life expectancy in the population was about 40 years. And now in the year 2000 and 2020, it is about 85 years. It's risen up to 85 years, almost doubled. So we need to see, are we able to improve the life expectancy of the population in the years to come? And why can't we not do that? We can really do this. And if you want to see this, you can take examples of some of the important areas like Okinawa in the Japan. You have the Ikara in near the Greece. Okay, you have various other islands areas which are close groups where they follow fasting, and the lifespan of these people is about 100 years to 150 120 years. Okay, majority of the people in this particular islands like Okinawa and other things, they live for up to about 120 years. And why is this? How is this happening? Probably because they do fasting. Okay, they eat only one meal a day. There are a lot of other things which we need to take from different ethnicity and the people from ethnic backgrounds and geographical locations to see why these people have a longer lifespan compared to other people are across. It's also because the native diet they follow. It's because of they don't binge on modern diets and modern fats and foods and sugars. Okay, they are very traditional kind of people. They eat only traditional foods, native foods, and that's what has led to increased longevity in this population. With this, I would like to end my talk, and I thank you all for patient hearing, and I'm just open for any questions you have.
We will move on to our next presentation. We have two questions, but I request viewers to kindly mail these questions to the email ID info@drpraveenjacob.com. Okay. If you could quickly answer just in a sentence, can diabetic have just one meal a day? A question from Maheshwari.
Yeah, if you want to have diabetics to start on fasting, you need to look at tapering their medications. for first 2 days, and then you start off the fasting. It's not that you just jump into fasting. You avoid skip one medication, jump into fasting. You tone down the medicines. You put them on exercise regimen for 2 days, and then you start your fasting. You skip one meal. You also reduce one of the medications in the evening or morning, so that you're able to maintain the cycle.
Yeah. Dr. Venu, I kindly request you to mail your question to the email ID info@drpraveenjacob.com, and your question needs an elaborate explanation, which Dr. Raghu will be answering via mail. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Raghvendra Rao, for explaining the cellular mechanism of cell recycling in the phase of autophagy, and stressing on the importance of high-fat diet in achieving glycemic control, as well as introducing a beautiful concept of bariatric lifestyle over bariatric surgery in effective management of metabolic syndrome, as well as a beautiful explanation on intermittent fasting and how does it help in achieving health and healing. Thank you, sir, for a wonderful presentation.